Welcome to Season 4 Part 3. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. The capture of a UA student by the League of Villains had the public in an uproar. The media questioned if the school could truly keep their students safe with the newest development being laid bare. The school, and more specifically Eraserhead, swore that they were doing all they could to keep their kids safe while searching for the captive pupil. Many were doubtful of those promises, and Midoriya was a mess, sobbing over the disappearance of her son. She was currently at UA, attending a meeting with Nezu to see what they were doing about his kidnapping. The mother wasn't the only one racked with worry. All of 1A, especially Yaoyorozu and Todoroki, couldn't stop thinking about what was happening to their fellow hero in training. Shoto was visiting her, the girl offering comfort to the heterochromatic boy who was currently shoveling blame onto himself. Shoto, please, it isn't your fault that they took Izuku. We were up against a group of very powerful villains. We did what we could. A look towards the male revealed to her that the male still appeared inconsolable. She looked down at her hands, trying to muster up something in her mind that would bring him from the depressed state he was in. A thought suddenly hit her, a memory of the earlier meeting she had with All Might and Detective Naomasa. You don't have to worry, Shoto. Izuku will be found soon, I know it. Dual-colored eyes met her gaze. I managed to get a 1B student to weld a tracking chip to the back of one of the League's monsters. The authorities possess a receiver I made to catch the signal and track him down. What? Why didn't you tell me? The boy stood up suddenly, a look of determination glinting in his eyes. We can save him ourselves. We have to tell everyone Shoto, no, the son of Endeavor's head snapped around. We should just let the pros take care of it. They'll save him soon. How soon is that going to be, Momo? Our friend is in the hands of villains currently trying to convert him into one of their own. Who knows what they're doing to him? The overwhelming amount of emotion from Todoroki was shocking to his friend. I can't just sit here and do nothing, Momo. He angrily clenched his fists, flames starting to lick up his left side. They extinguished as her hand found his shoulder and pulled him into a hug. He went limp, accepting the gesture of affection. Please, Momo, I have to do something. Izuku has helped me so much. The desperate tone grated on the girl's conscience as she released a sigh. We should talk to everyone else first, get their opinions on it first. But I agree with you, Shoto. The heroes have been very overly cautious. It could be many days until they go to rescue him. She creates another receiver and gently places it into his palm, curling his finger over it. Don't let anyone see you with it and talk to the rest of our classmates as soon as possible. Understood? He nodded and the plan was set into action. The stars seemed to align for him as the entirety of the class, other than a couple of students who were recovering or otherwise, they had gathered in Hagakir's room. The upbeat girl being one of the more injured students. Idle chatter was started, the topic of the class's missing piece being purposefully avoided, until the heterochromatic boy joined the conversation. I have a method of getting Midoriya back, not being one to waste time. He cut to the chase as silence quickly spread across the room. He explained the tracking chip Yaoyorozu had implanted and revealed the receiver as well as his rather reckless plan of going to save him himself. That idea is utter insanity, Todoroki. We can't do something like that. Dual-colored eyes glared at the bespectacled boy who spoke against him. You said yourself that the heroes have the information. Let's leave it to them. You don't get it, do you? Anger seemed to burn behind Shoto's gray and blue eyes. They'll take way too long to do it. You've seen the articles too, about cases where the heroes just weren't able to get there in time. We all know how slow the hero system can move, and we can't waste precious time. This is unlike you, Todoroki. Why are you being so rash? Because one of my closest friends is trapped by villains who are probably trying to get them to join their side at any cost. Everyone flinched at the male's loss of composure, a quiet shock registering in the room. I would have thought that you would understand my turmoil. After all, Izuku helped you out just as much as he did with me. Tenya flinched as if he was struck by his classmate, staring down at the ground in shame. Some of the other students came to his aid, while others went against it. The most shocking case of argument was Katsuki agreeing that they should help their jungle-haired schoolmate. I'm going to be 100% honest. There's a chance they could turn the shitty nerd. A vein twitched in his forehead as everyone began to deny his claims. He quickly yelled at all of them to shut up. You haven't seen what I have, you damn extra. Scarlet eyes blazed in a fury. So many people, including me, ridiculed and tormented the nerd over his quirk, but never once did he retaliate, even when things turned physical. He probably has a bunch of shit repressed inside of him. Can you imagine the temptation he would feel because of that? Half of those damn villains were probably outcasts or unwanted, people that could strike a kinship with Deku. Horrified realization spread across the class as they deduced there was an actual chance that the intelligent and calculative boy could actually be turned against them. The thought caused quite a few of their stomachs to roil and turn anxiously. You see why we must act now. A calm facade was back on Todoroki's face as he glanced at Wana. We can't let them turn him. You don't have to accompany us, but keep quiet about this, got it? Sharp eyes glared down at the other heroes in training. most anxiously shifted, but 2 more stepped up to join the rescue team, Kirishima and Eda. The recruitment stage was over, no one else seemed to step up. The son of Endeavor nodded at the ones who had stepped forward to assist him. They would soon be moving out, but for now, it was time to prepare and quickly heal. Meanwhile, their missing classmate was also healing in a location still unknown to them. Viridian eyes snapped awake as Izuku jolted up. He was panting as he panickedly looked at his unfamiliar surroundings. He was in a bed within a barren room. The walls and floor were a dark gray, and the monotony of the room reminded the adolescent of a prison cell. "Ah, I see you have awoken." Izuku Midoriya, the male's head whirled towards the voice, saying, "The teleportation villain, I do apologize for your state. Muscular went a bit too far. Although, the punishment you gave him balanced the scales. It wasn't a punishment. I was defending myself in Koda." "Of course you were, but you dosed the man quite heavily, didn't you?" The jungle-haired teen swore if the misty figure had a mouth, it would be twisted into a smirk. "It took a while for your toxin to finally reach his brain due to his sheer size, but it did so in a powerful way. The dosage was so high that, eventually, he was left whimpering on the ground, muttering about how he wasn't a weakling. I must admit it was amusing. Although it's such a shame that he's of no use to us now because of it. He seems to be a shell of his old self currently." The color drained completely from the boy's face as he shook his head, grasping tightly at one of his wrists. His breaths began to speed up as a repetitive chant of "no" quietly left his lips. He didn't mean to do that to the felon. Yes, he was a villain, but a hero isn't supposed to do that to a villain. A good hero only incapacitated the villain, not cripple their minds. "You'll make an incredible villain, Izu." "No, I'll never be one of you." He thrust his hands forward, fully intending to blast away the felon, only to find nothing happened. "What? Ah yes, while we did not bind you in fear of agitating your injuries, we do have you in Quirk nullification bracelets. I shall be leaving you now to fetch you some food, as I have no doubt you're starving." The sentence was punctuated by a stomach growl from Midoriya's stomach. "I'll also be returning with a visitor. Tamura has been dying. Talk to you." "No, don't you dare leave me in here." He ran to the villain, ribs aching in protest, only to arrive too late to grab hold of him. A hero in training stumbled to the floor before slamming the side of his fist against the floor repeatedly. He was all alone in a building which was likely full of villains. Life hated being pleasant towards him, didn't it? It was hours later until the one door that he had faced creaked open and the misty figure came in with a tray of food and shigaraki. "Ah, it's great to see you again, Midoriya." The man opened his arms in a friendly gesture that did not soothe the teen at all. "In a place where we can talk without being disturbed by any heroes." He spat out the word with pure venom. The villain recomposed himself, staring at the jungle-haired adolescent from behind the hand on his face. "You know why you're here, right, Midoriya? So that we can convince you to join the side you belong on." "I'm already a part of the side I belong on." The psychotic felon threw back his head and laughed, interrupting the boy. "Are you so sure about that, Midoriya? We've had some research done on you." He pulled out a folder he had kept behind him and opened it up. "An outcast student of Aldera Junior High who was, more or less, a recluse. At least that's what your teacher said." Izuku's breath caught in his throat, anxiety filling him, thoughts assaulting his mind, wondering how much they knew. "It was when we questioned some of your old classmates and parents that things got juicy." The too large grin on his face was all too visible. Some of them were very giving in the information. How they thought you were a little abomination, a villain in the making. How their precious babies were only defending themselves when they beat you down and hurled rocks at you. Flashes of a long-repressed childhood surged up from the depths of his subconscious. Phantom aches and pains began racing around his body as his breathing accelerated. "It is admirable how you stayed so determined to be a hero, Midoriya. With all the things it appears you went through." Kirigiri began to join in the conversation. "Your reactions, however, make me think that what we found only scratched the surface of what was done to you. That leaves us with a question. Why did you not seek retribution?" What are you talking about?" "Oh, you know very well, kid. Taking revenge on the little bastards who made your life hell." Tamura began closing the gap between him and Izuku. "I know that you've thought about it. Imagine your tormentors writhe on the ground in horror as their worst fears come to life. See them squirm and cry on the ground beneath you. See them lose their minds and fall into a comatose insanity." The villain pulled pictures out of the folder, tossing them onto the bed. He explained that some of the sadistic bullies even went so far as to document their assault of the boy. It only further illustrated the sheer prejudice the Viridian-eyed male went through. Even with the fact that actual proof of his abuse existed, the perpetrators were still never brought to justice. Doesn't it just infuriate you? Make you want to do something about it? You would feel so alive if you just used your quirk on them, I can promise you that. The power you would feel would be indescribable." The one a student's chant of "no" began again as his breathing sped up more. He closed his eyes and violently shook his head as images of the villain's words appeared in his head. It had been years since he had ever thought of using his quirk like that, his mother keeping his mind from wandering into those dark desires. However, Inko Midoriya was not here with her son this time. The people who were here wanted him to heed those horrible wants. I think that's enough talking for now, though. We'll leave you to eat. Hirajiri. The golden-eyed figure set the tray on the foot of the bed before going to stand by Shigaraki. I'll be looking forward to speaking with you again, Midori. The duo exited the room, leaving a shaken teenager behind. Izuku could barely calm himself. He was trembling badly, and tears built up in his eyes as he felt his psyche being battered by hidden urges that had remained unheeded for so long. Please, help me. He buried his head in his hands. He didn't want to know what else they could do to him if he was this broken after one talk. Days went by and things grew worse for the mental state of the kidnapped UA student while his friends got ready to go after him. The heroes still had yet to make a move on the villains, despite having obtained the estimated location of the League. The 5 students had all completely recovered from their injuries and were currently gathered together, formulating a plan for their rescue. Shoto looked up at the sky, gazing out into the distance, fists clenched tight. Momo put a hand on his shoulder and nodded. They were going after Izuku that very night, and nothing was going to stop them from getting their friend back. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.